a professor emeritus, holds a BSc in economics from Legon, and then Bachelor of Divinity from London University, Master in Theology. So he is also a man of God, a theologian. He is currently Professor Emeritus at Ashase and Executive Chairman of top-rated Ghana Christian International High School, and serves on the Judicial Council of Ghana. He is the immediate past chairman of NDPC and GRA. And these are crucial institutions when we talk of integrity. So he's the one to speak to us. His distinguished career includes Deputy Director of GIPC, Senior Economist at Commonwealth Secretariat, and the first rector of GIMPA, as well as a professor of economics and leadership at GIMPA, Pentecost University, and Ashase. Let me just move on and say that his passion is to serve the Lord Jesus Christ and his body. He longs for the day when leadership and governance in Ghana will be such that countries' development will be on sustainable growth and development path. He believes when the foundations are destroyed, the righteous must arise and rebuild it. He is unashamedly ethical, and it pains him when he fails. When he falls below the standards the Lord requires of him. This is the man who has written, "In God we trust, all others we monitor." Please help me welcome to the podium the Professor Emeritus, Stephen Adei. Prof, you are welcome.
When you are a second speaker, you have to rewrite your talk, especially when you have her ladyship speaking as Bishop Emeritus. My Lord Spiritual Chairman of the occasion, honorable members of Parliament, the clergy, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. Let me say that if her ladyship went to Wegehe Methodist, I also went to Hiramwasi Primary School, Methodist. It's also a Methodist school. When I was the General Secretary of the Commonwealth Staff Association, that's at the Commonwealth Secretariat, the Queen told us a joke, a serious one, it's true, but so. He said his father, always in the palace, occasionally would steal themselves to go and play with the commoners so that they don't have the police people always following them. And one day they did so, he and their uncle. And they were having snowball, and they would put a stone in the snow and then throw it at people. And unfortunately, they hit somebody's glass window and it broke. And the police came and rounded the three of them. So the police asked the first ones, "Who are you?" He says, "I'm the Prince of Wales." And the policeman looked at him, and actually he was the Prince of Wales. Then the next one, "Who are you?" "I am the Duke of Edinburgh." Even if you're punished, you have to salute first. Then the commoner, the one commoner, was asked, he said, "Hey, everybody is saying a big name, and therefore he must, if he uses a big name, he may go scot-free." He says, "I am the Archbishop of Canterbury." Not knowing that the Archbishop of Canterbury then was about 80 years old. So I'm also from a Methodist background. Well, since Master was mentioned, actually there's a school which has been encouraged by one of my girlfriends, Mrs. Misata. She has been to my village twice to see the school. It's called the Ghana Christian Adei campus. And you would like to know that this year, probably it was the best school in Ghana, 100% WASI. So this is what you are encouraged. And I've been asked to talk about integrity, the impact of corruption. And I wasn't too sure whether it's impact on corruption or of corruption. So I didn't ask so that I wouldn't be asked to do what I may not be able to do. So I decided to go ahead. But undoubtedly, integrity is a major defining characteristic of anyone who is a child of God. You are in and you are out should be the same. And it's a major characteristic of nations when they want to develop. On the definitions, standing on Her Ladyship's protocols, but it's important for us, we are talking about truthfulness, whereby your word can be trusted. Actually, I'm a very strange person. I like people talk nice about me, but the only one I like to hear about is my wife and my children, because they should know me better. And one day, I don't know, somebody had the audacity when I was a younger man to ask my wife, this is an impossible man. How do you manage to marry him? Imagine trying to cause divorce. I would have gone to my friend, attaching her to take him to court for me, with you as judge. So I turned my face as if, going to what he will say. I thank God for what he said. He said, are you talking about my husband? My husband is such that if you live with him for 1 week, you know him completely. And therefore, it's a matter of whether you accept his principles or not. Actually, I've never told her that I hate her. That's for only you. I believe that slightly soiled, as a Christian, you are greatly reduced. It doesn't matter whether you are dealing with primary school, at work, in church, everywhere. And it's a pain to see how the righteous are vanishing in the land. Whilst I was working in the UN, there were 3 words which were, even in a non-Christian context, very important. It says integrity, accountability, AIT, and transparency. So much so that if we got a gift more than $50, and that is quite small. I mean, yes, it's a pen, where when you are earning 100,000, $10,000 a month, 50 is a change. But you have to declare it. If you go on a mission and say, I'll come to Ghana, and he says, oh, Stephen, get this. It's more than, that is what we are talking about. Even the foundation at that level, it is to be accounted for. The Leadership Bible of Campus Crusade for Christ says integrity has to do with consistency between what is inside a person and what is outside, between belief and behavior, our words and our ways, our attitudes and our actions, our values and our practice. And the opposite of integrity in Scripture is hypocrisy. That's why Jesus Christ was so much against the Pharisees. These were the religious leaders. I don't want to go there too much, but sometimes I get angry when you hear opposition and government accusing each other of corruption and all sorts of things. And I say, where is the integrity? I'll be talking about corruption in Ghana, and but when I know that, for example, when the average public servant sponsors a bill or has appropriation in parliament, they have to find money to pay committee members, which cannot be accounted for in their books in order to have their decisions taken. And later on, we hear about Public Accounts Committee sitting on the work of public servants. That is lack of integrity and hypocrisy. When I and you, if you are in an executive position, you have a lifestyle which you cannot explain by your salary. It is lack of integrity. I was reading a piece by a Lebanese Ghanaian who was in Ghana and has gone to Australia, giving his reason why he had left Ghana. And you will weep. He says he's fed up. He cannot stay in a country whereby anything you want to do, you must pay small or big bribe. And it's on the net. And it's, and you read it as a Ghanaian, and it pains you, and you cannot say that he's telling a lie. It doesn't mean that everybody is corrupt. But when the foundations are destroyed, what can the righteous do? And as a result, as a people, I deal with young people, both as a professor and as a head of a school. The young people, when I hear them talk, I really sometimes I'm afraid. Because they believe that there's nothing righteous in this land, even though I always believe that there's always a 7,000 who have not bowed down their feet to bow. There are few there, but there are politicians who love the Lord and serve him. There are in the executive and elsewhere. But we are talking about the overwhelming climate. Integrity is not an ivory tower concept. It manifests itself in every area of our lives, our spiritual life. It requires total consecration to Jesus Christ as Christians and avoidance of all forms of syncretism Today you are in church, the next day it is at the funeral with the amamre. Can't do it. And the time has come for those who call ourselves Christians to stand and be counted, even if it will cost us our lives. Intellectually, it means when you say you have done this work, you did it, not plagiarism or examination or practices, which is becoming such a norm. In our school, at Ghana Christian International High School at Sota, Dodowa, we opened junior school about maybe that 10 years ago. And out of 1 year, we stopped going to do BEC. So we don't do BEC in our school at Sota. And you know why? The first time we fielded candidates for BEC, almost everyone, the supervisor, the invigilator, the police, and everyone expected our students to share their results, their answers with other students. And because they would not do it, they insulted them as wicked, evil, and everything else, that we had to bring psychologists to come and counsel the children. So I said that Ghana Christian will not participate in GC. So when you go there, you go through to Wasi. And when they are going to do at Kanata, our teachers go and stand with them. I mean, this is the level of dishonesty. And as it's coming so down. Let me give you another example, because I can only give what I know. When we started the branch of the secondary school in my village, we decided it would be a community school. So only the 10 villages around Shiromwasi were admitted. And their school, we bring them and they take them back in the evening. And these, when they came, they had 1 BEC once, 5, 7, 8, just the top. You know that some of them could not even spell their village name. Somebody was asked to fill his village name. He said, Adiemra, they mean to mean super. You can't spell Adiemra. And yet, later on, investigation shows that they all pay 60 Ghana cedis when they are going to examination. I've forgotten the number. 1 for head teacher, 1 for the district education, 1 for the police, 1 for the WASI, 1. And so they get them. And we have to spend 1 full year in order to start them again in the year from class 1. When I said the teachers were laughing, I said, please, if you go through class 1 syllabus and they are able to do it for 1 week, you move on to class 2 and go class 3, class 4. So within the year, we start from them. And we thank God that today, when you do that one before they start, we have 6 students on MasterCard scholarship from Shilomwasi and his villages in Ashasi University. But the question is this: not the lack of integrity is not only at the highest level, it's now permeating to the lowest level and destroying the very fabric of our society. We as a nation must face the reality in order to deal with it. So that I can't go into the, what's the integrity touches where, what do you say, where the rubber touches the road. It's the reality among us, whether in the home, family life, physical life, uncontrolled appetites. professional life. For the time I've worked in Ghana, I can't count the number when Ghanaians have asked you, "Oh, Papa Juma, is that your father's work?" How can you? And often my answer is yes. And most of them don't wait for a reply. They go, but because it's my father's work. The world belongs to my Father who is in heaven. A charge to keep. I and you have God to glorify. Never dying souls to save and fit for the sky. It's our calling to serve the present age. When it comes to corruption in this country, I think the young people who have the saying, they say, as for cent, aje baby. Therefore, and I want to say, therefore, anyone in authority who says that he wants evidence about a corruption is blind. Of course, I mean, if the honorable is going with his car and the police in front of you, you will not see a policeman getting corruption. But if you send somebody to go from here to Kumasi and back, you will get at least in 4 places where a bribe is being extorted. If you want to know, just send somebody to go and register land for you. And you have an evidence of corruption. In the middle of my chairmanship at GRA, and I survived only 15 months. We implemented the ICAMS, which is the Integrated Customs Management System. Do you know what? From June of that 2020, every month, tax, customs duties, not increasing the rate. In fact, the honorable minister, for some reason, had halved all the rates, and now he wants to introduce it in trouble. Why did he have it in the first place? I have to grow a bit more to understand politicians. What is but when we introduce the system, every to 400 million a month. This shows the amount of leakage in our system. In other words, and that doesn't mean that it's now foolproof. But if in July, at the end of June, you introduce the system, July, you get 300 million Ghana cedis more. Even under COVID, where imports have gone down. This shows the level of corruption that is going on in the ports before. That is almost 4 billion a year. That's how easily we're able to exceed the target. And if we were to add the under invoicing and by invoicing by the mining sector, by the oil companies, I mean the big ones. And how do I know? Because what they declare in their parent companies' balance sheets, and if you go and see how they things, the dichotomy alone, if we were to investigate it, Ghana will be saving billions of dollars. But do you know what? Someone would like to get $50,000 bribe and cost Ghana 1 billion. In one case, we caught someone who had this a minor one in the mining area, change $100 million to be paid to the country to 1 million. You fire the person, and then you are the victim. And then they will use some argument, is there any protocol in taxation? Both the Integrity International, Transparency International has shown something. Of course, there are perceptions. So what I was talking about is the realities, but the perception reflects them. Let me talk about what Transparency International's picture is for the past 10 years about corruption in Ghana. If you are dealing with the politicians, you must always try to achieve equalization. 5 years of Mahama and 5 years of Akufo-Addo. I can see that there are more bad girls and boys here in the room than I thought. I think that's of why. Let me tell you, it's a picture which preparing for this. I've been reading them, but at the time that Atta Mills passed on, so that's the 5 years, the Transparency International Corruption Perception Index, Ghana had scored 40, had reached 43, which is still below 50, but not too bad. May his soul rest in peace. When Mahama, at the end of his 5 years, he was leaving office, it had fallen to 41. So corruption perception actually shows that things had worsened under Mahama. Then it started rising and reached back to 43 under Akufo-Addo. But for the last 2 years, it has plateaued. So, how do I, as an economist and statistician, interpret these two things? You can know. First, it means that the level of corruption in Ghana is very high. For anything 40 is in there. Anything below 50 means it's high. However, it rose under Mahama. It improved under Akufo-Addo, but has plateaued. And therefore, my conclusion is that corruption in Ghana has become a systemic problem. And when something becomes systemic, dealing with it is much more difficult, but has to be tackled frontally. And this is the reality. Please don't depend upon Asiedun Ketia and Sami Jamfi or John Boadu and Boabin Asamoah's comment. In terms of cost to the country, and here this is my subjective analysis, because people always quote the fact that it cost us about 3 billion because the World Bank actually did that study about 15 years ago. Today, I think that it is within the neighborhood of 18 to 20 billion dollars. And this is when I hear, since there are two MPs here, people boxing in parliament over yield levy. And I say that, look, the real issues that they must be dealing with has not been tackled. Yes, actually, Ghana needs a 7 billion and more, not less. And if you identify other areas, it should be also additional, like property tax and other things, and not in lieu of yield levy. But of course, it's more political point scoring than Ghana's development. But why is it so difficult for us to tackle corruption? It's because of lack of integrity. We are not prepared to look at it and to confront it and say that, hey, we are going to stop it. I think that we can do better as a country when it comes to corruption. I must be very careful because when was I threatened of being invited to parliament to answer against corruption? So I don't want to be invited again. But now I stand on solid ground because my former student and now speaker, Babin, says that there's corruption in parliament. so he cannot invite me. Despite all the what we know by Afrobarometer, by Transparency International, consistently, the executive, parliament, judiciary, sections of the security, especially the police, have been ranked among the most corrupt institutions in Ghana. And yet, have you ever heard anybody admit corruption? That's lack of integrity. Of course, the ordinary person in the street are desperate and sometimes they speak against the executive. The president must do something. We are actually on a democratic dispensation. The president cannot put anybody in prison. When I came to Gimpa from the UN with my own Benz, I refused to use it. The reason why I didn't use my own Benz, not bought by Ghana government or Gimpa, was that when I saw the type of vehicle the professors were using then, you cannot use a Benz and motivate them to work hard. And thank God, in 9 years, we increased the internally generated funds of Gimpa from $500,000 to 10 million. And the people who did it were not Stephen Adei. It was ordinary Ghanaians. And for 2 years, they got no salary increment, but because they believe it's not the wood, the work, the monkey, the chop. The public servants who were entitled to annual increment in salary, 2 years didn't. Thank God, when I was living, they were the highest paid lecturers in Ghana. We can do it, let's model it. The second is that the rules are set by leadership, parliament by, for example, we cannot in Ghana live under this level of corruption to say that unless it's proven. We must change our law. And the question is that, can you get parliament to do so or executive to initiate it? Whereby people must be challenged to explain the source of their wealth. We cannot go and use this British system and fight corruption in Ghana with it. We must change it. I am a capitalist. I believe that when people work, they can enjoy. Therefore, my house I live in, which I built 13 years ago, I still have my file on there so that if somebody asks me, how did you build it? I can give them the file. I'm not so-called communist, which means that they enjoy it at the expense of the people. It is good. I believe in capitalism. When it is done on the sweat of your brow, not dipping your hand in government coffers. We must change the rules. Also, leadership has a role to play in the sense that when people know that when there's a smell of corruption, you'll be set aside, they will be careful. It is alleged that these days, you know what they don't take it to the bank. They are having Jato, you know, the red 200. Some people are having it in their house, alleged, in wardrobes, full. Already preparing for 2024. Let us be very, look, if we want to, we can stop corruption. But it requires integrity on on our parts. I have to end here. I'm in the middle of my talk, but I'm ending. That means you and I will not add to the integrity, a lack of integrity and the corruption. When you go to the public office and he says, go and come, you as a citizen must sit down there and say, I'm not going anywhere and I'm not coming. One day in the bad old days of Ghana Airways, my brother, my youngest brother had come from Amsterdam, and then they decided to cancel the flight. And they said, all Ghanaians go home, foreigners go to Continental Hotel. So he took his passport and said, where is the manager's office? And he went and opened his passport, hometown, Shiromwazi. The man saw it and said, add him to the foreigners. How can you go and tell, say, a Ghanaian who has paid the same ticket, he should go to Shiromwazi and come tomorrow morning? Integrity must start. We must teach our children. We must insist on it. One day, we were registering land for the school. My principal goes to the lands office and he's told that the documents are lost. I said, please, can you stand there? He says, then I took my car, drove myself, no driver, everything. And I went, I said, who is the officer? I said, yes. I said, you said it's lost, okay? I'll be back, it was Thursday, I'll be back on Tuesday. By Tuesday, you haven't found it. Do you know when you lose my thing, what do? You replace it. You replace it, not me. Isn't it? Or is it not? On Tuesday, when we went, it had been found and processed. It requires integrity on our part and our insisting on integrity. But I know, because it's frustrating when they say go and come, Ghanaians must learn not to go and come. And then things will be done. It requires, most importantly, for the church to put its act together, the Christians, and then be willing to suffer. Don't allow yourself to be intimidated by your NDC, your MPP. They just brand you so that you become almost toothless. No. the men and women of God must stand up and be counted and insist that integrity should become part of our national psyche and behavior. We should teach the students, and we should teach our family. Because if we do, Ghana's development will be very quick. When I was chairman of NDPC, we did a document, Ghana at 100. And we were convinced that if we follow very simple trajectories, by the time Ghana is 2057, it will be a totally developed country, but for corruption, for lack of leadership, and lack of integrity. Yes, we can. And let what the Bible Society have started today be the beginning of a righteous revolution. God bless you.